Good evening. His dad was the Never Man.
We say never, 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 never.
But 40 years later, would he be unhappy that his son Ian Paisley says he's open to a conversation about a united Ireland?
So at the moment you haven't presented one single argument that would say to me, gosh, that stumped me, I really should be voting for United Ireland.
Your mind is open.
Of course, my mind's open. My mind's open every single day of the week.
A set of circumstances where you would
my mind is open on all sorts of terms. But I'm a true believer in Britain and in this place being British. But if you've got persuasive arguments, please present them, because to date I haven't heard them.
Michelle Gildernew finds herself in the thick of it today too, after she told Loyalist activist Jamie Bryson she supported murder.
I wish it had been avoided, but I think the British Army brought a war to our streets, and the repercussions of that were as a result of what happened. But I also think that if we're not talking about history, if we're not talking about history,
Michelle, just be honest with the answer.
July 2025, a few miles from where I live, there was a bonfire with a boat full of migrants on it.
Michelle, answer the question. Do you believe IRA murder was justified or not? Do you? Be honest. I'll be honest.
Yes,
I'll be honest.
I do.
You do? That's fine. Well, at least we can be honest with each other.
Yeah.
I believe Loyalists had a right to do the same the other way. That's fair enough. At least we're honest.
Mervyn, I would like to ask you, because it's not historical. It's not too often.
It's not awful, though, that we're going to sit here and have a conversation about murders and people talking about justifying murders on either side of this debate. Absolutely, but the point is that both of you have now said that you think that murders were justified in this place.
Well, I think the murder of IRA people were justified, yes, not civilians.
It doesn't matter who it was.
Lenny Murphy and the Shankill Butchers and all that you disagree with that?
Lamon, Enniskillen, Taban, Kings Mills.
And I don't.
Well, Buckler's new podcast, Borderland, has dropped onto BBC Sounds today. And the two protagonists, Ian Paisley and Michelle Gildernew, are in the studio tonight. You can speak to them live. It's why we're live on BBC One. And there's the number now, 030 30 80 55 55. Michelle, some people are shocked. Some people say, well, why would you be shocked that you supported murder?
Well, I think, Stephen, I'm very mindful. I'm sure we're all mindful that there could be victims and survivors and relatives here watching this programme tonight. And I think it's important that we are cognizant of that. I don't think it really helps that we're getting into a slanging match about all of this. I very much welcome the fact that this podcast is looking at the opportunities around a new future for all of us, and I'm delighted to be participating in it from that point of view.
But that's the point, isn't it? That if you're looking to the future, part of a future generation that are forming their views on not just what Northern Ireland should be in the future, but what they're taught it should be in the future, are hearing from someone that was such a prominent politician here saying, yeah, murder was all right. I justify murder. I justify it.
Well, like I say, there's people watching this that I really don't want to be triggering. And
so why did you say it?
Well, I think it's important that we do focus on what the podcast is about, and that's about looking at the constitutional future of this island, looking at what is going to be the best outcome for all of the people on the island. I have said many, many times, I believe partition has failed us all. It's failed everybody in the north. It's failed everybody on the island of Ireland. So I think that given that we're having this conversation, and that there have been very robust exchanges, but there's also been a lot of honesty and a lot of, people have been respectful and mature in their conversations. And I think that's what we need across the board and across the island as well.
Some people have said to me today that what Michelle was honest.
I obviously sat very quietly during that part of the programme, and indeed Chris commented on that. And I must say I was appalled. Yeah, you can say I was honest. But I was appalled for this reason, that here we are, 30 plus years into the peace process. People talking about Northern Ireland, this buzzing place that we have. There's young people, exuberant, wanting to make this place a success. And two protagonists in it justify killing each other because they're from a different tribe. And we've got to ask ourselves, is that how far we've actually come? It was appalling. Michelle knows it was appalling. Jamie Bryson knows it was appalling. It did not do the cause of us trying to engage and talk about us as a people any good whatsoever. Full stop.
I think Ian is probably trying to have a wee bit of distraction from some of the other things that people were saying today.
Michelle, I don't care what was said.
Genuinely,
it was appalling. You know
I've
appalling.
worked my whole adult life to try and make this place a success, to try and make the lives of my constituents better, to try and eradicate child poverty, try to eradicate
justify murder.
Social,
your words. I justify
the issue
murder.
around housing and all of the social and economic issues that dog families right across the island of Ireland.
We've both got children. How do you think your kids felt when you said that? I justify murder.
I'm not.
We couldn't. But you know, it's not justifiable to
Ian,
say it. It was wrong to say it.
You also know.
It shouldn't have been said.
You also
More
know
importantly, what lies
how
behind
hard,
it shouldn't have been
how hard
said.
I have worked to try and
you
do
just
my
undid it
best
with a comment.
to bring people with me and to make people's lives better.
You undid it with a comment like that.
I've worked my whole life to try and make people's lives better. I will continue to do that. And I still think that the situation that we have in the North it has been a hugely difficult one for everybody. But partition has failed us all.
Can I just say, I don't think at any point, and I can throw up any grievance to match anyone else's grievance, but I can tell you this, at no point in Northern Ireland was the firing of one bullet or the murder of one person justified by any side.
Does that include the British state?
Now, the murder of any person justified. I don't believe it was justified. There was not enough discrimination.
Do you believe the British state murdered people?
There was not enough. The British state have been found guilty of murder at times, and those people have gone to jail for that. Indeed, soldiers have gone to jail and police officers have gone to jail when they've been found guilty of murder.
And would you support more investigations into people
we have a whole
paramilitaries?
We have a whole industry.
Or were involved in collusion.
And
would you support it?
We have a whole industry in that. And more importantly, can I make it very clear, more loyalists have gone to jail in Northern Ireland than any other section of the community.
That's not true.
It is true.
It's not true.
Proportionally, when you look at the number of deaths, number of arrests, more loyalists.
I'll tell you better than that.
So the state has been very good at locking up loyalists.
One man has served more time than all of the protagonists from the British Army put together. So that's a pretty damning statement as well.
But you must accept, for you to say that you justify murder, it was. I mean, what is it? You're trying to, for example, win people into your view of a new Ireland. And yet, you as the advocate for this, I justify murder. And I justify murder of the tribe that I don't like. That's awful.
It's not. You listen to the comments
but that's
that were...
what you said.
No, look...
You justify
Ian,
murder.
We have, right now, an opportunity as adults who have grown up in a post-conflict society, who have got an opportunity now to build an Ireland of equals,
You've blown
an Ireland, a state.
You're not the advocate for this.
You see, again,
I think
project. You're just trying to distract people away from some of the other.
You're not the advocate for this project now after saying that. I can tell you.
But Ian, the bottom line is this: that there's no hiding about Sinn Féin's support for what the IRA did in the past.
Well, we've had a whole
rewriting. The First Minister of this country has talked about no alternative to violence in the past. And Sinn Féin are the biggest...
That didn't land very well.
Well, it landed this well. Sinn Féin are the biggest party in this country.
Because unions split their vote.
And bigger than your party.
Because unions split their vote.
What's the bottom
if
line?
unions want to self-harm and keep splitting their vote, that'll go on until they actually realise that as a community they can actually be the largest section of the voting population if they so choose.
You know, there will be some people asking why we're having this conversation about a united Ireland. But the truth is, it's a really important conversation that feeds into the United Ireland. And if you take a look at the British and Irish governments, they are really reluctant to have a conversation about a border poll, about a unity referendum. And that is partly because of reconciliation. You take a look at what Leo Varadkar said to us on the podcast. He made very clear that as far as he was concerned, Micheál Martin didn't want to get into a conversation about a border poll because reconciliation hasn't happened on this island. And that is a huge issue because what happens if you bring two parts of these islands together and you haven't managed to achieve that? Now, Leo Varadkar's view is you need to find a way of having reconciliation and pushing that idea of a united Ireland at the time. But what you're seeing here are two people who are engaged in this debate, are having genuine conversations about this debate, but the past hangs over all of that, and it has a real impact on our future. And that is why identity about British and Irishness is so important.
Let's hit the phone straight away. We'll go to Ballymoney first. William in Ballymoney. Hello, William.
Hello, Stephen.
Go ahead. What have you got on in the background? Shut it off. Is it me?
It's you.
Turn that off in the background quick. We'll get echo all over the place.
Okay, I turned you off.
Good man. Go ahead, William.
Yes, I would just like to say to Michelle, you know, like she says that the British Army brought the war to our shores. That's not true. The British Army was here to serve and defend the people of Northern Ireland. And it's the IRA that started the wars and bombing and the killing.
Thank you, William. Liam in Draperstown. Hello, Liam.
Hello, Stephen.
Go ahead.
The troubles would have never happened. Nationalists tolerated decades of discrimination without any violent reaction, and then they took to the streets in their thousands in the civil rights marches, and the first people to use political violence was Unionism against the peaceful marchers.
Do you accept this, Ian?
The stage for violent change. When you take away the force of argument, the political process, you only leave the argument of force. So the responsibility for the violence needs to be accepted by Unionism.
Okay, Ian?
No, I don't accept that. I accept that the conflict, as it's been called in Northern Ireland, the troubles, as others call it, have been a very, very difficult thing, and that there was the start of that process by people illegally killing and bringing violence onto the street. That was wrong. And, you know, as I've said, there was no justification for it at any point. And whenever those bullets started flying, unfortunately, starting it was easy. Stopping it took most of a generation.
Do you understand why young loyalists joined paramilitary groups?
Of course I do. Of course I grew up with young loyalists.
Do you think, they were wrong to join those groups?
There's people in my political party who made a choice. They decided when they were 16 or 17, do they get engaged in politics with a political party, or do they get engaged with paramilitary organisations?
Do you judge with contempt those people who joined loyalist paramilitary
I
groups?
believe that it was wrong.
To join?
I believe it was wrong to participate, to join, to get involved in violence. Right? I've got to take that position. Otherwise, if you slip on that at any point...
Was it wrong for the DUP to flirt with Ulster Resistance?
Look, it was wrong to be engaged in violence.
You heard my question about the DUP.
It was wrong to be engaged with violence. How much clarity do you need in that? How much clarity do you need? How much... Is it a wee bit wrong? It was wrong.
So the DUP's...
It was wrong to be engaged in violence. That is my position. That's always been my position.
What's this about you being open to talking about, having a conversation about a united
I'm having
Ireland?
a conversation with you. I'm open about that. I'm not running away from it. I think unionists have a responsibility to show confidence. Look, we've got the greatest product in the world. We're part of the 6th largest nation in the world. We've got the greatest product, which is the union. We fail to sell it to others. Oh, we're very good at talking amongst ourselves about how wonderful it is. We can sell it to each other. Whether we're in an orange hall together or whether we're around our own living room sofa. But we need to go out there and market it and sell it to the rest of the community.
Yeah, but,
and I believe we should be doing that.
But let's look at how your party, the DUP, has very much distanced themselves today from what you're saying.
Well, a political party isn't engaged. I'm engaged in this as an individual.
Yeah, but your political party has reacted to you as an individual.
Yeah, that's okay, but
right?
Sinn Féin's not involved in this. A former member of Sinn Féin, a former political activist from the DP. I'm involved in doing it for those reasons.
Well, let's just look. And
my political party would never get involved in anything like this, ever.
They would never get involved. They would never be open to a conversation.
Well, because they would be committing themselves to a process which they don't want to get engaged into. Now, my view is we should be confident and open and fight the corner that we're in.
So are your party wrong?
Well, I think that we should be confident, and I think that our members of our party are capable and decent and able to... I listened to my colleague, Mr. Brooks, this morning on your show. He was brilliant. Why isn't he out there fighting this corner every day?
He will be. He'll be on this programme later tonight.
I listened to Gregory Campbell and talk back, having the very same discussion that we were having at a time when the state was just issued that we shouldn't be engaged in. And he was brilliant.
The interesting thing is, because you and I have been discussing this, and we've been getting into the conversation about this, about what is best for Northern Ireland going forward. And listen, you know as well as I do that we're in a position now where the UK is a changing place.
Scotland continues to have conversations about whether or not it could have independence at some stage in the future. There are, from some people's point of view, a rise in what they see as some kind of English nationalism. The UK is changing, isn't it? And actually, Northern Ireland has to be aware of that.
It's a very dynamic situation. There's absolutely no doubt the dynamic culture of the United Kingdom is changing, the dynamics of politics is changing, and we as the Democratic Unionist Party, the Democrats, should be on the front foot on that. That's my view.
Let's have a look together about how the DUP got a statement out distancing themselves from Paisley here. And here's the statement. The DUP is not interested in engaging or being persuaded on the so-called merits of a United Ireland or New Ireland or any other label those who want to pursue that aspiration might put on their latest project. And they say, we believe in the Union, and we are not open to taking part in discussions about a new Ireland, and we will not be enticed by honeyed words designed to convey, it's disappeared there. There it is, designed to convey an impression that Unionists would be welcomed and openly accommodated in a United Ireland. So were they wrong?
Well, they then put up a spokesman to go in and discuss this and talk back today. And not to discuss the podcast, but to discuss a United Ireland and to discuss the arguments around it and discuss what the voting arrangement should be in that. So I actually think, guys, get out there and fight the corner. We've got the greatest case to make. Let's get out there and make it.
And when people were learning to walk, when babies and toddlers were learning to walk, when we were negotiating the Good Friday Agreement, those people now are coming up on 30 years of age. They have mortgages and children and they're trying to make ends meet in another cost of living crisis. But they're also excited and enthused by the thought of being in this unique position, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build a nation. And they don't want to be left behind. Young Unionists that I know don't want to be left out of the conversation. Older Unionists don't want to be left out of the conversation either. And I think the DUP's lack of leadership. I mean,
it does go part of the core, though, isn't it, of people and Unionists who feel very strongly. And you know, again, we've been exploring this. Unionists feel British. If there was an All Ireland, the reality is they wouldn't be British. And similarly, as you make the argument very, very passionately, you see yourself as Irish. You don't want to be Northern Irish. And you can understand, therefore, why they want to shut down this debate.
And the things that when we talk to Unionists on the show and talk to different contributors, and when you ask them, what is it about your Britishness that what's your British culture? And they talk about, you mentioned it yourself, Coronation Street, Ian, English soccer teams, the royal family. These are things that we are already, engaging with.
What about the flag?
So we've got,
what about our sovereign?
We've got
what about the
an opportunity.
Core?
Look, we have got an opportunity now.
But you're not appealing to that, to the real loyalist, to the real unionist. And as I said, you're supposed to be the advocate for this.
I'd
and
say
you
you're
can't
not appealing
win.
to a lot of people, Ian.
But what are your big worries about what you would lose that are important?
Well, first of all, I'm British. I'm absolutely British, and I feel British. My identity is British, and my ethos is British.
We're going to change your
life. And it would be the same the morning after a United Ireland. You'd still feel the same.
I'll give you an idea how it would change. The currency would change. The structure of our police would change, the structure of our regulatory procedures would change. Our trade, 60+% of our trade is with the United Kingdom. It's an internal market. We'd be taken out of that internal market. The whole structure of Northern Ireland would change. The economic shock.
Are you open-minded? Are you open-minded? When you say you were open-minded about the discussion, are you open-minded as to whether it might be better?
I don't think it is better.
Yeah, are you open-minded to exploring it?
I'm waiting for someone to present me with an argument. And the thing is, we've had...
Why are you waiting for someone to present you an argument?
I think we've had about 4 programs, but we've gone into the economy of this quite a bit. We've had a number of presentations made to us. And one of the points that I kept coming back to, well, where are the economic arguments to make this stack up? And it was either, well, if you twist them this way and you take housing out of it, you take this type of expenditure out of it, then this all works. Or if we ask the British government to buy it, it actually works. It doesn't work in the matrix.
Educational attainment, poverty levels, everything.
Hold on a second.
Although they're not judged in exactly the same way, so the comparison is difficult to make.
Okay, I accept that.
Philip's in Belfast.
Every matrix.
You're live on BBC One, Philip.
Scores higher.
Go ahead.
Hello, Stephen.
Yes, Philip.
I'd like to ask Michelle, who's going to pay for this money?
The British government.
Is the British government, the Irish government, is it UN? Who's going to pay for it? It's the single parents are going to pay for it, single people. And this family's going to pay for it through the nose.
If she's supposed to be for the people, how's it all going to be broken down?
Do we know how much it would cost?
There are different points of view and different,
Billions.
you know yourself, Stephen, lies, damned
Forever.
lies and statistics. But the point we have made consistently in this is that when a government in Dublin starts to take this issue seriously, starts to plan and prepare, that we have a citizens' assembly, that we are able, that we have
I've heard
a
about this from the 70s, the 80s,
citizens'
the 90s,
assembly,
the 90s.
that we are able
You've
to
been preparing
sit
for
down
decades.
and look at all the different
And you can't
elements.
make the case.
That look at all the different
Here's an
elements
interesting
of
one,
this.
though, because the reality is we are always thinking about it from this side of the border. There is also the other side of the border, and that's something we explore a little bit later in the podcast, because, you know, this idea that Ian's flag would go, for example, there's also the question of, would the Irish flag stay? And that's something that concerns you, Michelle. You've already made that clear. You wouldn't want to see the
Would
flag
you accept
change.
the Irish flag
You wouldn't say that
changing?
I would welcome an opportunity to discuss everything.
Well, we're discussing it now. Would you welcome a new flag to represent the United Ireland?
It wouldn't be up to me to.
I know it would be up to
I think we need to have.
What's your
but
view?
I would be welcome to have that conversation. I'd want to hear what other people think.
And in that conversation, could you countenance a new flag, getting rid of the Irish flag?
Well, my preference would be to keep the flag, and I mean, I had a wee rise.
So the British,
no, let
so
me
the
make
British
this
get
point,
rid of
Stephen.
their flag in Northern Ireland, and we keep your
Let me
flag.
make this point. I had a rise
So the
smile.
British, I had
a rise smile last week when Ian said,
up.
"What about flying the two flags together?" And I said, "My whole life, you haven't enabled equality
Yeah, but
or
you're the one
neutrality.
making the
You've
argument
never
for this,
flown
New
our
Ireland.
flag
You're the one
beside
making the
your
argument.
flag,
You're the one
but now
making the
you're
argument.
looking.
Ronan next.
You wouldn't give
Hello, Ronan.
us the
Making the New
generosity
Ireland.
that you're now asking for.
Hello,
Expected.
Ronan. Thank you for
Hiya.
calling us tonight. Go ahead, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me. I just wanted to make a couple of points. One being that, you know, we've had these same debates back and forth. We heard Jamie Bryson and we heard Michelle Gildernew talk about, you know, sanctioning murder and all that sort of stuff. That's now something that applies to both sides.
They didn't talk
We
about
move on.
sanctioning murder. They justified
Well,
murder.
same thing.
They justified.
And-
There was no sanctioning about it. They
Right, well-
justified murder in the past. Bryson wants to make it clear that he was talking about the murder of IRA members. That's correct, right?
Yeah,
Right,
they
that's
say
fine.
that they feel that murder.
Have you
was
listened to the
justified.
podcast?
I. And what I'm going to say is just that, you know, we've been having that debate for years. It now applies to both sides, and it's not getting us any further. I'd like to hear Jamie Bryson and the Unionist and Loyalist community respond to economic arguments in favour of United Ireland. By any measure, Northern Ireland isn't working.
But here's the score, right? I've lived here, I'm 52, 50-odd years of my life. I've been presenting all these programmes. I haven't a clue. I'm going to have to actually listen to these three on that podcast on BBC Sound,
Might learn
Borderland. Because I don't know. How many of us actually at home do know what the net cost would be of remaining in the United Kingdom, how our lives would differ in terms of the ka-ching, the pounds in our pocket. There's so many.
That is a Nolan priority right there. You know, that's a pound in his pocket. That's what he's concerned about.
But it's the priority. A lot of people have to
pension,
consider these
and his
things.
NHS.
When you're running a family, you need to. And I think.
But
there's so much more-
have the Shinners and the SLP, have they actually sold what it would
No,
cost?
sure, they had to
how much
apologise
it
for a
would be?
minister today because they couldn't even get him involved in their process.
I think it's really important that the Irish government are involved in the planning and preparation, Stephen. And I think that's one of the. I really regret the fact that the Taoiseach wouldn't come on the programme and talk to us about it because I'd love to get speaking to him.
The British
government,
Secretary of State, Hilary Benn. What did he not want to do, Buckler?
So Hilary Benn,
wasn't comfortable.
Hilary Benn, we asked to come on. They object to this phrase, us, which we're using, which is what we were told. So we spoke to representatives. We spent months trying to get both the Irish and British governments to speak to us. And we had a meeting with Hilary Benn's representative. We had a conversation with them. They eventually came back to us months later and said he was not prepared to take part. And what they told us at the time, but they now say that it was more a question mark over whether or not he should take part in a programme that focused on British identity.
A question mark. They were offered to come on, they didn't come on it.
Yeah, they said,
and they said they weren't comfortable. What
they said? Well, they said to us at the time that he wasn't comfortable taking part in a programme about British identity. And partly that was because he didn't want to come down as one side or the other. Now, what they have said and tried to clarify is that what they have suggested is that there was a question mark.
Clarify or backtrack?
Well, they say that there's a question mark over whether he should have taken part as Secretary of State because he is a Secretary of State for all people in Northern Ireland.
At least the British Secretary of State, and this is the point, the Secretary of State
Okay.
should be standing up for Northern Ireland, should be making the case, should be batting for Northern Ireland, not walking away from it.
And he can't justify.
Well, let me tell you this.
Maybe he's just...
all the Taoiseachs that have ever been have never made the case for United Ireland because they don't want it.
There are so many talking points out of Buckler's podcast. It's on BBC Sounds now. Look at that pretty picture there, those three retrobates. While they were visiting an Irish language centre, well, I say Derry or Londonderry, this beautiful wee country we live in was called a shithole by Michelle Gildernew.
So you don't have to be in Ireland to be Irish. Yeah. And, you know, the people who have embraced their culture, their language, their heritage...
One state then to be Irish? I mean, what you've really dismantled there, and I think it's a very interesting point, that if that's the case, you don't therefore need one single state to therefore be Irish, because you can be Irish anywhere, just like I can be British anywhere.
But the 6 counties is a shithole, like. So, you know, that's the problem. This country doesn't work.
You've been helping the government
this
for the
I know.
20, 30 years.
Absolute best.
You know?
But this doesn't...
So the legacy of that falls, you know.
Doesn't work. The 6 counties on their own don't work. They'll never work. And as an island, we are better off. Culturally, economically...
So this lovely, beautiful country, which we're trying to sell to outside people, we're trying to enjoy, this lovely, beautiful place you think's a shithole.
Well, certainly it's beautiful. That's one thing about it, but it's unworkable.
Do you really mean that?
It's unworkable, Stephen. And we've had over 100 years...
What's that say about Sinn Féin?
We've had over 100 years since partition, and it has never worked in favour of all of the people.
Is that because you lot don't want it to work until you get your hands on a united Ireland?
It hasn't worked because we've had policies from British governments throughout decades, and they've brought us gerrymandering, they've brought us shoot to kill, collusion, they've brought us internment. The British government have been a malignant,
and you know something?
Have been a malignant
force. You go back
force.
and look at the video and look at the face of those young people. They couldn't believe you said that. They couldn't believe you said that about their country, because this is our country together. And you've tried to just say, no, it's this because there's unionists in it, because they're British
unworkable.
I didn't make it unworkable.
Needs to take a bit of responsibility.
And I think it's appalling that you said that again.
I've never even heard you say,
you know, have done it.
Ian, you've never said, I've asked you lots of times, you know, what about, you know, the whole issue of reconciliation? And you keep saying, oh, the Queen met Martin McGuinness, so therefore that's reconciliation.
Sorry, all those prisoners that were let out of jail, do you not think that was reconciliation? That was a gift.
Unionism.
You couldn't get it. You couldn't even say thank you.
Unworkable. You used the majority that you had to treat nationalists differently. Take a bit of responsibility for what unionism did.
Let's talk about now and what both the DUP and Sinn Féin, as the 2 biggest parties, are actually delivering huge waiting lists, a planning system in absolute crisis, the inability or refusal, whether it's right or wrong, to implement revenue-raising processes in this country. Like, what does it look like to someone trying to get a house and we can't build enough in this country? What does it look like to people sitting on waiting lists and they just find the executive squabbling and moaning and gurning?
Is this the Stephen Nolan show?
Yes.
Right. Well, you can make the case that Northern Ireland is not performing to the best of its ability, and it is extremely hard when the structure of government has allowed for the sort of coalition that we have to make Northern Ireland work. Now, there's arguments about fixing that, there's arguments about repairing that, but can I say, you could take the same story to the south of Ireland and look at all those issues of immigration, of housing, of failed health trusts and all the rest of it, of failed children's hospitals, of all sorts of things. You can take it to Britain, you can take it anywhere. People do not comparatively live their life that way.
So it's working better since the Good Friday Agreement has mostly been implemented,
but you know, I don't live my life in the 1920s. I live my life now and today. I'm trying to work together. I've looked at a number of the comments in the last wee while. So the British Prime Minister didn't mention Northern Ireland in his speech. The leader of the opposition in the UK, the leader in the opposition in the UK, you ever come with that, in the UK, didn't get our facts right about Brexit in Northern Ireland. But of course, Taoiseach in Northern Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, isn't interested in having this debate, doesn't want to participate in this debate. The former Taoiseach can't put a time or a date on it when he would even have a referenda. The fact of the matter is, we should live our lives on the basis that Northern Ireland, we together, the people of Northern Ireland, can do far more together and far more in common than looking south are looking east and west. We should be working together to make this place better.
Have done.
They haven't, Michelle. You criticise them.
People like Albert Reynolds and Bertie Ahern, and there have been Taoiseach who have had the unification of this country and our people at their fore. Not in the last 10 years, I agree, but I welcome Leo Varadkar's comments that he has made.
When he's no longer Taoiseach.
Yes, when he's been out, it's a pity.
It's easy.
Here's a question. Here's a question amid all of this, though. If you genuinely do believe that, do you believe in Stormont?
Stormont's a really important part of the Good Friday Agreement, and yes, I think we've went in and we've worked the institutions as best we can. And
this is a very careful answer.
No, this is a genuine answer. I've been privileged to be.
Are they responsible for the?
Represented.
Are they responsible for the SHIT hole?
I've been privileged to be in Stormont, to act as a minister, chair of the health committee, different posts over a long career at Stormont, and yes, we've worked really hard to make it work. Right. But we do recognise too that the work that we've put into Strand 1 isn't reciprocated by the political parties across the table in Strand 2.
You believe in Stormont?
What about Strand? What about the north-south institutions, Ian?
Like most people, I don't think the thing works the way it should be. It's very awkward. It malfunctions a lot of the time. But I do believe that local people are far better running local affairs as local as possible. And that's why I go back to the point. It's back to the point of a Slade colleague of ours in Parliament, whatever she said, and there's plaque to her in Parliament, and it was this, that we have more together that brings us and unites us together and drives us apart.
Hello, Malachy. Very quickly, mate. Very quickly.
How you doing, Stephen? Yeah, it's just listening what Ian Paisley Jr. has to say, but I think a fundamental fact is Nelson McCausland on your show a long time ago, before Brexit, was asked, what happens if the economy plunges down the drain? Would you not even consider speaking about United Ireland? And his answer to you then was, no chance. It wouldn't matter if they give every loyalist and unionist in this part of Ireland £500,000 each. They are never going to go into United Ireland. They hate the Irish. They hate the Catholics. And their orange orders to this day still ponder and play their drums. And that's the problem here.
That's absolutely not true. And I'll tell you why, Malachy. Like, I've identified roots in my own identity which are Irish and things which I enjoy which are Irish. And I'm proud of it. I'm confident about it. And I think as unionists, we need to find that inner confidence and get out there and be positive and go on the front foot on these issues. So I certainly don't have any hatred towards any fellow citizen in Northern Ireland.
So you're an Irishman as well as British?
Look, my identity is made up collectively from Northern Irish things, from things that are Irish, from things that are British, things that are Scottish. And that's what influences my identity. And for us to try and run away from that and say that we're just one wee tiny thing would be foolish.
OK, well, look, you can get a lot more of these three on the podcast, Borderlands, on BBC Sounds right now. First two episodes are there. When are the next two coming?
Yeah, first two episodes, the importance of being Irish, the importance of being British. And next week, we're going to be speaking on Wednesday to maybe the most important lot in all of this, the middle ground. Because we can talk about the people who are nationalists, we can talk about the people who are unionist, but actually that lot in the middle, they might make the decision if there ever is a border poll.
We invited Alliance on tonight. They weren't available. Nobody was available to talk about it. There we go. Ballymena is Paisley's former political heartland. So we sent Brendan down there to ask how some people feel about your man here, his open mind.
Just how shocked are you just around his comments? Mr. Paisley says he's open to having a conversation around United Ireland.
I'm not shocked at all, because at the end of the day, I think we've been more or less living in a United Ireland for the last 10 or 15 years anyway, and everything but name. If the Republic of Ireland take on the 6 counties as well, do they realise the amount of cash that comes from the UK to keep Northern Ireland going every year, which is absolutely staggering amounts of money?
I live on the island of Ireland, so I suppose you could say I'm Irish as well as British, but I would identify as being British.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you seem quite shocked when I put to Mr. Paisley's comments.
Yeah, very, because he's DUP, backbone, you know, no United Ireland, shouted for it for years, so why the change of all of a sudden?
Sure, we live in Ireland, you know what I mean? So we have enough of the UK and all that, certainly over there. So.
I do think Ireland really don't want us either.
Okay.
They don't want the fight in Northerners.
Yeah.
So they don't.
Yeah.
So they couldn't afford us.
Well, you think it would cost too much?
To take us on.
Where's the British country you're in? What are you only going to United Ireland for?
When you eventually realise what Britain's doing to you, then one day you're going to sit back and say, you know, I don't want to be part of that. I would welcome anything to break away from the British connection.
So what does the latest polling say about how people would vote in a border poll? Well, let's take a look at this together, will we? In February, a Lucid Talk poll for the Belfast Telegraph suggested 48% of people would vote for Northern Ireland to remain part of the UK. 41% would vote to join a united Ireland. Look at the 10% who aren't sure or don't vote. You see, some people might say that's the balance of power, and that's why we'd be really interested in those alliance-type voters and others. Suzanne Breen, political editor, is with us this evening. From the Belfast Telegraph. David Brooks, the DUP MLA, is with us. Alban McGuinness, the former SDLP MLA, and the TV MLA, Timothy Gasson. Peadar Tabine, the MP leader, is down the line with us this evening. Well, we look at those. Where's it at, Suzanne, when we look at those polling numbers?
Well, the gap between those who want to maintain the union and those who want constitutional change has narrowed in the past year. There's only 7 percentage points between them. This time last year, there were 10 percentage points. So the union supporters are still ahead, but very, very narrowly. And I think what's important is those figures relate to people being asked if you were voting in a border poll tomorrow. In reality, that's not what would happen. If there was an Irish government, for example, with a programme, then things could change considerably in favour of those who seek Irish unity. This is just if you asked people tomorrow how their views would be. I think what's dangerous for people who want to maintain the constitutional status quo is that all the support for the union, the strong support, is in the over 45s and the retired people. When you look to the stats and you dig into those under 45 to those under 35, then you will see a clear number of people, sometimes in double digits, who actually want to support Irish unity.
So, David, you might be in trouble. If you don't connect with a lot more younger people, you might be in trouble.
Well, Stephen, there's always a job to be done in terms of promoting and selling the benefits of the union. I accept that, but what I would say is that polling for quite some time now, decades in fact, the needle has barely moved on support for people who are actively seeking to vote for a united Ireland. I mean, there's been campaign after campaign, Sinn Féin leader after Sinn Féin representative coming forward and giving timeline after timeline as to when this united Ireland is going to be achieved, and yet it's always jammed tomorrow for their voter base. It's never coming along, and we haven't seen the needle moved in terms of their support. We've seen the growth of Sinn Féin.
Listen to what Suzanne's saying about how that needle might move, a generational change.
Well, yeah, there's work to be done. I think what we're seeing, though,
work to be done. You've been trying to do it. You're not getting it.
I think what we've seen actually is a growth of that middle ground. To be fair, but what we have, and we've seen a growth of Sinn Féin at the expense of the SDLP. But that has sometimes falsely been painted as a growth of nationalism, and that is not the case.
Peadar Tabine, apparently you've been shouting at the TV tonight. What's wrong?
Well, first of all, the union has cost so much money to the people of the north of Ireland. Before partition, the north was the engine of the economy in the island of Ireland. Now, disposable income is 40% higher in the south of Ireland. Now, life expectancy is higher in the south of Ireland. Now, educational attainment is higher in the south of Ireland. Now, hospital waiting lists are longer in the north of Ireland. The level of infant mortality is twice the rate in the north of Ireland at the moment. And the fact is, London doesn't give a tuppenny damn about the north of Ireland. If you go over to Westminster, the fastest way you can clear the Westminster floor is to have a debate on the north of Ireland. And it's the North of Ireland committee members who actually say this themselves at the moment. You know, it's absolutely incredible, the gap that is growing between the standard of living north and south. And that gap has only started to really grow in the last 20 years, but it's actually continuing to gain pace currently. And what we're saying very simply is, if you have a a United Ireland, you have a bigger home market, you have access to the European Union, you end the duplication of all the different departments that exists currently, north and south.
Go on, Timothy.
And you have a better chance of actually making a benefit for the country. And just one point on this, because
hold on. Hold on, Timothy.
Nonsense I've listened to so far in the show, Stephen.
All those are facts.
Potter. I firmly believe that support for the union is growing. I firmly believe that what we'll see over the
Where's your evidence?
Years, the people I speak to on a day and daily basis.
Straw poll.
You might dismiss it if you want in the BBC, Stephen, but I'm telling you, there's more and more people, and what you'll see over the coming years is people like myself who are confident in their unionism, who are confident in their British identity, coming forward and saying, you know what, we don't want to engage in any of this chat about a new Ireland. It's not for us. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
That middle ground, that balance of power.
Them are the people
by just
that are going to
shutting out, not even speaking to them.
They are the people that are waking up. They're starting to see through the alliance and what they offer, what they deliver for them. And you'll start to see the Alliance Party shrinking. And you will start to see people coming back to unionism and voting for unionist parties.
Well, the demographics are against unionism. That's the reality of the situation. And what Ian Paisley has done and what people like Wallace Thompson has done, founder of the DUP, has said, look, we as unionists have got to look at this situation because inevitably we are going to be outvoted. Therefore, we've got to take that into consideration, start talking about a new Ireland. Doesn't necessarily mean a united Ireland in the traditional sense. It means a new Ireland, new institutions, right across the board, and that's the important thing.
Suzanne, this strategy from the likes of Paisley to say, bring it on. He's open-minded to a conversation about it. The strategy of the duppers here, which is they're selling their electorate, so the TUV, that hard line, we won't even consider talking about it. What's more attractive to that middle ground?
Yeah, well, conversation, discussion, dialogue. But again, in our Lucid Talk polls, 9 in 10 nationalists wanted a border poll within a decade. 3/4 of unionists wanted one. Never. And I think despite, all the tough talk, that's because they are afraid and they know the demographics are going the wrong way. Even if you look, 43% unionist vote in the Westminster election, 40% nationalist vote, 1 in 4 MPs in Belfast, the capital city of Northern Ireland, is a unionist. And I go back just 1 point, Stephen, to 2013. Arlene Foster, DUP leader at the time, she said she'd spoken to colleagues in the party and they were thinking of supporting Sinn Féin's call for a border poll. They were going to call Sinn Féin's bluff because she was so confident that a border poll would be, Irish unity would be.
Here's your reality. You had a former British Secretary of State on the Nolan radio show today, Sean Woodward, saying he reckons there should be a border poll within the next few years. You've got a current British Secretary of State that wasn't comfortable taking part in a programme talking about it.
I mean, this isn't new, Stephen. I said this morning. The idea that the NIO would be coming on and strident in their unionism, trying to sell it, particularly under a Labour administration, nobody in your audience is going to be surprised by that. I mean, that's the way the NIO has behaved here for many years. They should be more strident in selling the benefits of the union, but they aren't, and particularly under a Labour administration. But Peter Tobin was listing all of the
Pater Tobin.
Pater, apologies. But Pater was speaking there about the wonders of the Irish Republic, who faced many of the same issues that we are facing around housing. That Sinn Féin was calling their own health service a war zone.
That's vastly untrue. The economy in the south is dynamic. It's one of the best economies in Europe. And for you to say
25% made up by multinationals who put their profits through Dublin.
They've attracted the multinationals.
Structurally weak. The Republic's own.
Hold on, David. They're investing billions of euros in the future.
Windfall wealth.
Timothy, there's a difference.
We can't do that here.
Hold on. Just to come back to Suzanne's point, there's a difference between what the polling shows and what people actually do. The nationalists I'm speaking to and Catholics that I'm speaking to, if there's a border poll tomorrow, simply won't be backing it.
So would you welcome a border post?
Absolutely not. There's no point talking about it.
So you're
Stephen,
confident about
Stephen.
it. So confident you don't want it.
Absolutely. I don't want to start this 7-year cycle.
Why not? You're confident. You're quids in.
This is a process. So they will only stop this process.
You're terrified of it, aren't you?
They will only finish this process when it ends in the United Ireland. So that's what they want to start. So let's look at it. I'm not scared.
Well, then why not bring it on?
You go into West Belfast.
Why not bring it on?
And you start asking people if their benefits are at risk, will they vote in a border poll for United Ireland? They'll turn around, Stephen, and tell you absolutely not. See if you're speaking to the person in the street. Economically, Stephen, it's far better. It's more prosperous for you and your family and
But
UK.
here's what you're doing tonight. You're putting words in their mouth. You're speaking for them. You're telling us how they think. Why not let the people of this country tell you how they think? By the wee tick in the box.
And then start this clock that every 7 years we have to repeat this process? Absolutely not. Unionism should not be buying into that, Stephen.
Yeah, so one of the points that came across in your Vox Pop is very interesting. People talked about the subvention from London and how much it would cost for United Ireland. But that's the politics of dependency. And I listen to unionists say, we can't leave the UK because we would lose out that money. Where's the ambition here? Do you not want to grow the economy so you're no longer dependent on London? Do you not want to grow the economy so you no longer need a subvention to pay for hospitals and education and for housing? And I think strategically, unionism can't countenance publicly that they support, that they will ever negotiate a United Ireland, just because obviously it will be dangerous for them at the polls. But I know all of them understand at this stage that there is a day coming. And there is a need for a discussion and a negotiation to happen eventually.
Depending on London, this is a country and a nation that speaks of its European values, but whenever Europe is in its time of need, cannot provide anything towards the defence of Europe, can't defend its own borders because it doesn't have any defence forces worth speaking of. Spotlight just a few weeks ago pointed out that because the Irish Navy is not much different than the swans at Pickypool, that international drug cartels are able to run drugs through the Irish Republic into Northern Ireland and beyond because they can't defend their own borders. That's dependence on London.
Suzanne, you're shaking your
That's
head.
dependence on London because they depend on the UK. They depend on the UK and the rest of Europe, but particularly the UK, to defend their borders for them.
It's just points that were made. Pensions, unemployment benefit, they are significantly higher in the Irish Republic than they are here. Our poverty rates are worse. It used to be, I worked for the Irish Times in Dublin, and I worked in Belfast, but people from Dublin were coming up. They used to talk about our great health service, our great roads, our great economy. It's exactly the opposite now. I mean, the Republic has an £8 billion surplus when there's talk that Britain might need bailed out of by the IMF. That is the difference.
By the UK.
8 billion.
Stephen, let's look at it. Let's look at it. We are better off. Myself, my family are better off being part of the United Kingdom. So
You're
when
in
it comes,
your heart, but are you in your head?
Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, I'm a unionist. I'm confident in my identity. That's what draws me to being a unionist. But for those in the middle ground and those within nationalism, they will be swayed by prosperity.
He's right. Identity is the big issue for unionists. And we as nationalists have got to look at that, and we've got to reassure unionists that their identity will be protected and cherished.
How did that work in the New Ireland Commission? When on the podcast, the Reverend Norman Hamilton found out that he was snubbed.
Yes.
That was the SDLP.
Claire Hanna has apologised for that.
But I think that problems like that can be overcome, and we've got to respect people and be courteous to people.
Listen, thank you very much to all of you for coming in. Peter, thank you. David, thank you. Suzanne, thank you. Alban, thank you. Timothy, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, don't forget Buckler's podcast. It's Borderland. It's on BBC Sounds now. It's kicking off this whole discussion. Next, this is Convictive